Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu of Life podcast. This is episode number 96.
Heyo, and that's 4 away from 100.
Oh, I'm so excited when we get to 100.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I guess was 200 the next big one or something like that.
How long have we been doing? Yeah. How long have we been doing? Have we been doing this?
It's got to be coming up on 2 years. I mean, well, if it's every week, let's do some math. This is a math for guys who get hit in the head a decent amount. So this would be pretty bad. But I believe there's 52 weeks a year. We're doing this once a week. So that would be 104 episodes would be 2 years. We're at 96. So we're maybe about 2 months away from hitting 2 years, although we must have missed. I feel like we haven't missed anything at all, but maybe we have missed a few episodes or something like that. But we'll say just about 2 years.
That's awesome. Because, the reason, we've talked about before, the whole reason we did this was an exercise to see if we can stay consistent.
Yep.
We were talking about business to begin with, and we were talking about jiu-jitsu while we were talking about business.
Yep.
And then it was your idea. I mean, I think we were sitting down, I don't know if we were having tea somewhere or if we were just got done training, maybe over at Sean's.
Yeah.
And you were like, we should just start recording these conversations.
Yes.
And see what comes of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, okay. Hey, you remember? Because in my mind I was like, this probably won't. We'll probably stop recording the conversations and just have the conversations, or stop the conversations altogether. Yeah. But I remember when we first started. Remember, we were doing it from your iPhone.
Yeah, we did. That's right. And look at us now.
Yeah, look at us now.
Microphones.
We're doing it from.
Things have changed.
Big time. I was excited all week because you sent me something. You sent me something last week.
Mm-hmm.
And this is real big. Because a lot of people will tell you, entrepreneurs, that if you want to change your life, you got to understand the why. The why is the force that kind of drives you accomplishing the goals you have in life. If your why is not strong enough, you're not going to make it. You're going to quit, right? Yep. And so you really need to understand your why. And what I realized when you sent me this exercise, well, first of all, it's difficult, right? But what I realized is that I was only touching the surface, right? And I wasn't getting to the root really, really deep. But once I started getting into this, and I was having a really hard time getting down, to the 5th, 6th, 7th level of this.
Yeah.
But once I started getting to that point, I had bought in to my own dreams again. Like, I was bought in from the beginning, right? Like, I had bought into it from the get-go.
Yeah.
But it was like, I remember the point in my life where I said, I want to do this with my life. I'm going to get into entrepreneurship, and how that energy I felt, that optimism I felt, the motivation I felt when I did this exercise, it made me feel it all over again, but for deeper reasons that I did not know were there. I guess is what I was trying to get at. So I was super excited. What I'm really excited about is I want to hear, so I have some thoughts on how we or other people might be able to use this.
Yeah.
But what I was really excited is I want to kind of hear, because we're good friends, and I want to hear your why, right? I want to hear your motivation.
Yeah.
Because I know you got you have some different goals for 2020.
Yeah.
You have bigger goals that you've set, and understanding my friend's why is important to me.
Yes. So this thing is called the 7 layers deep, or 7 levels deep. 7 levels deep. It's by a guy named Dean Graziosi, who's like a self-help type of guy. But I heard about it through the mentorship group that I just joined a couple weeks ago, the Lifestyles Asset University. And you're right. I mean, in terms of people understanding their true motivations, I think it gives it almost a sense of sort of peace and clarity in something, because once you're understanding your real root reason for doing something, then I think it removes a lot of the doubt that we might feel from the day to day. Because it's like anybody who's an entrepreneur or doing anything like that, it's a lot up and down. I mean, there's so many things that go wrong on a daily basis. There's so many things that seem just patently unfair. People owing you money or whatever it might be, they just are out of your hands. And if you don't have that sort of strong anchor as to the real reason why you're doing something, it's very easy to quit. It's very easy to try and do other things. That's sort of the fear of missing out, the chasing shiny objects. I think all that is a symptom of just not having a clear-cut understanding of your motivation. So the exercise is very simple, and it sounds very similar to a great Louis C.K. bit from years ago where his daughter just keeps asking him the question why over and over again. That's kind of what this is. So the basic question is, what is important to you about becoming successful? This is the question. And you go 7 layers deep. So for me, the first level was what I did, the way I did this.
This first answer, is this the first thing that came to your head?
Well, so, okay, yeah, let me explain that. So I did everything longhand. I wrote it out because I feel like sometimes I like to do that. I feel like it leads to more sort of spontaneity and tying things together and just allows my thoughts to go a little bit better. So what I did is I kind of wrote out a bunch of different things and then looked over them and just said like, okay, this one feels like the truest thing to me. This feel like I just kind of went through things. So I would circle the one that felt correct. And once I felt sure about that, then I went to the next level, wrote out a bunch of things, looked at it. Some things were easier than others. Obviously, I think as you get deeper, it gets a little bit more difficult. But let's jump into it. So what is important to you about becoming successful? So for me, the first thing I wrote for level 1 was I want to live up to my potential. I think about this a lot in a very, I don't know, cynical sort of way or whatever, the idea of being on your deathbed and being like, I didn't really do what I was capable of in this life. And I know people that have already left this world who for sure did not live up to their potential. And I have this increasing intense sense of urgency as every year goes by. And that fear of not living up to my potential haunts me a little bit. And so that was level 1, was I want to live up to my potential. So when you get to the second level, you just simply phrase that, what you want, in a question. So why is living up to your potential important to you? Good question. I wrote out a lot of things, and what I came up with is I want to lead the right people. So we talked recently about how I was like, man, I'm kind of burnt out with teaching. But I realized it wasn't that I was burnt out with teaching. It was that I want things to be an exchange of information. Like I want it, like, and Kevin and I were talking about this the other day, where it's like he's showing me stuff, I can show him stuff. Like we can legitimately exchange good information with each other. You and I can do this all the time on a variety of subjects. That's what I want in my life. I want to be leading people, the right people. And what I mean by the right people are people that are going to exchange information that are going to lead me as well. And I got tired of the idea that, you know, when you're teaching like beginners and stuff like that, and this would happen like repeatedly, where like some guy would come off the street and I'm like, he's never done martial arts before, he's never done whatever. And it's like, I'm like, go prove to me that you're serious for a couple years and then we can start talking. But until then, I don't have time for that. That's not my place in life to bring jiu-jitsu into somebody's life for the first time. My place is for people who want jiu-jitsu in their life for the rest of their life. And so that idea of I want to lead the right people, that's what that meant to me. So that was level 2. Level 3. Why is wanting to lead the right people important to you? And this is where it got more sort of, I don't know if you found this, but to me it started getting more like emotional towards certain things. And I came up with, I want to have made some type of impact. Like I want, like I know this is very cliche, but the idea of making the world better than it was. Like when you look at, I always look at people talk about controversial figures in history. People that had, I mean, one day they will talk about Donald Trump this way. They will talk about a lot of different people where it's like, you have to sort of take the sum of their life and say, was the world better off because they were alive or worse off because they were alive? And that sounds extreme, but it's like, I want the world to have been, my little world at least, to have been better off because I was around.
I like that.
I want to make some type of impact. The questions get harder to say too. Level 4, why is wanting to make some type of an impact important to you? And I struggle with this a lot because it's like, what, like, is that an ego thing? Do I want to have like my own t-shirt when I'm dead? Do I want to have like this thing? And I realized, like, somebody said this to me when I got my black belt years ago. He said, "You inspired me to want to work harder." And somebody else, when they got their black belt, said to me, "You were a big part of this happening." And so I put it down as I want to inspire people to be better. Because I think that when I was younger, I looked at people with talent or people that were good at stuff, and I just was like, oh, they're good at things. And I felt like I struggled at everything. And I was like, who wants to see somebody struggle? You want to see that virtuoso come and play on the stage. You want to see, Muhammad Ali box. You don't want to see them struggle. But I realized, like, maybe my gift, and I was thinking, we were just talking about this before, like I was talking about how Jeff was kicking the crap out of me on Friday, and in front of, and how people just kind of watch. And it's a weird thing because it's like I need that reality check in my life. But I think hopefully that people can see that, I'm somebody who's been doing this stuff for a long time, and people that train with me know that I'm decent at it, but they see me struggle and lose and know that I'll never beat the guy. Like, it's not like one of these things where, oh, he's going to struggle and then he beats him and now everything, the end of the story. It's like, that's a fairy tale. It's not really real life. In reality, there's people you're just going to lose to for the rest of your life. Unless that's it. And he's one of these people. But it doesn't mean that you don't still train with the person and still struggle. So to me, it's like that. If people can see somebody like me willing to submit their body to this madness, then maybe it'll inspire them to be better. So that's level 4. Level 5. Why is wanting to inspire people to be better important to you? And I thought about this, and I'm like, well, because it's like, okay, you want people to be better, but well, why do you want people to be better? Like, I mean, that's cool. That feels good. What is it? And then I realized it's because I want them to inspire other people to be better. Like, I want it to be a chain. I want it to be a ripple effect. You know what I mean? I didn't want it to be just me and the people around me. Like, to me, one of the coolest things, and this has only happened to us, like, well, I'll be generous and say 6 times, but it might be less than 6 times, is when people legitimately who I've never met before say, hey, I've listened to the podcast, and when you said this, like this thing, and I'm like, and then I was telling my friend or whatever.
People have told you that?
This happened like 5 or 6 times.
I'm still waiting for that to happen. Just kidding.
but it's cool because it's like, to me, it's like, not only if it's that, but then if it's that and it helps them with something else. Like, so it's not just the people that hear it, but it's the people that get inspired, that get affected by it, that are never even hear it to begin with. You know what I mean? So it's like, it
Absolutely.
doesn't. So it was that level. That's level 5. So I can inspire. So they can inspire people to be better. These questions get more complicated as it goes along. So why is wanting to inspire people to inspire other people to be better important to you? And this one is more like, why is that important to me? Because it means I mattered in this world. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, it's like,
I love that, my man. I struggled with number 7.
Yeah.
But that's such it seems like a simple answer, but and you can even go deeper from that, right? Like,
oh, I did, because I still
why does
well, so why is mattering in this world important to you? And so I did get deeper and more specific, but so that the lives of officers, civilians, rescued pit bulls, Chloe and Emma, who are my nieces, and military travelers are better because of what I've done. So their lives are better. People that I'm never going to meet, I want to make their lives better.
Man, that is so powerful, my brother. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I'm already inspired, my man. You've already inspired me just by listening to you right now. Like,
Step 3, done.
Yeah, you've done it. Hey, halfway through it, so name this movie. I wanted to go Carter, and then you look at me and I say, it's not your fault. And then you're like, yeah, I know, Mo. It's not my fault. And I'm like, no.
Good Will Hunting here.
There you go.
That's
it's not
right.
your fault, man. Tony, the first time I ever heard about the power of the why was Tony Robbins. I was listening to one of his he was speaking about it on a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, if you don't know your why, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And the why is the engine that drives you to what you're doing in your life. And most people think that they know their why, but they only hit the surface. And that's what I loved about this exercise, is it makes you go so deep to really understand what is really pushing you and driving you to
Yes.
accomplish the specific goals that you have in your life.
Yes.
I love
Yes.
it.
And,
Yeah.
and you had a great idea. We were talking about this beforehand, is that jiu-jitsu instructors, people they should have their students go through this in terms of jiu-jitsu. Like, why is jiu-jitsu important to you? Because I
Absolutely.
think that if you really can answer that why and go those 7 layers, I think that's going to help you a lot during the downtimes of things. Because one thing that I see a lot, when people get hurt, they disappear. And that is one thing that in the first 10 years of my jiu-jitsu life, we're talking almost 25 now, the first 10 years, I was one of those people. I would disappear. And the one conscious thing I did when I moved out here was, I was like, no matter what, if I'm hurt, I'm still going to come and watch. And that has made such an enormous difference in progress and mentality and just sort of mental sharpness and really never feeling all that depressed about whatever injuries. And it's funny because, I mean, I've had way more injuries the second part of my jiu-jitsu life than the first part. But to me, it's way less depressing because you're still involved in it. And to me, understanding that part of it was important. So having students go through this and figure out why it's so important to them, because some people, they might realize, oh, this is just how I define my ego, by beating people. And if I can't do it anymore, if I can't beat people anymore, I don't want to do it because my ego will take this battering. That's an important thing to learn about yourself, because to me, I would challenge that. Well, why is that important? And just keep going with it. It really could, I think, sort of change the way they look at training and give them more longevity in their training. Because I think a lot of training injuries, I think a lot of people quit because of ego. Almost everybody I've met who's quit jiu-jitsu, it's been an ego thing. Like, they couldn't take losing. They got to a certain level, then they got hurt. They didn't want to come back because they didn't want to lose, or whatever it might be. But by understanding why it's truly important to you, you're going to realize it's ridiculous to do it from a competitive mindset, because that's such a small window of time in your whole jiu-jitsu life. I mean, you're competitive in your 20s, basically,
Yeah.
and that's a 10-year period of your life. If you do this for 50 years, it's the minority period of your life doing the thing. So, but I think that's a great idea. I think instructors, that would be a very interesting thing for instructors to do, not only for their students, but also for themselves. Why are you teaching jiu-jitsu?
Absolutely.
Because understanding why it's important.
That idea hit me the other day because my wife and I were talking to Robbie Rabati, who owns a very successful
Yep.
jiu-jitsu academy. And if you want to learn how to run a successful jiu-jitsu academy, that's the guy's that's the guy that you want to
Yeah.
pick his brain and figure out what he's doing, because he's
Yep.
doing a lot of things right.
Yep.
One of the things that Robbie discussed with me was that there's only so much time in a day, right? And so when I was asking about his follow-up process for people that are kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and he was, it basically boiled down to that. There's only so much time, the 80-20 rule. He'd rather spend more of his time on people that really wanted to better their lives than trying to convince other people that aren't, like, they don't know their why, they don't understand. So when I hung up the phone with Robbie was 100% correct. I think that's hard to argue with that line of thinking. But at the same time, I feel like jiu-jitsu saves lives. That's how strong I feel about jiu-jitsu. And I think if you run, and I don't even run an academy, nor do I want to, right? Like, that's just not my deal. But like, that's how strong I feel about it. And I think anybody who does jiu-jitsu kind of knows what I'm talking about, right? Like, if God forbid a tragedy struck me today where I lost a loved one, I think jiu-jitsu would help me heal, because that would be my outlet. Going to the mat and seeing my training partners would be therapeutic. It would be a sort of meditation for me, right? To help me to rebalance my life. So I started thinking, I was like, no, we can't let one person not experience jiu-jitsu. We leave no man behind. Behind. So what is a way to sell jiu-jitsu but not sell it at all? You actually get the potential student to sell it to themselves. And the way I would do it is use this exercise. So bring them in for the free trial, maybe, right? And then after the free trial, sit down with them. I wouldn't even send it home with them, because if you send it home, they may not do it, right?
Yeah, you're right.
I'd sit down with them, and it takes a little bit more time, but I would go through this 7 levels deep exercise.
Yeah.
And at the end of the exercise, they're going to understand their why of why they called you in the first place, why they came to ask you questions about jiu-jitsu, and why they even took the free trial. And I don't foresee them getting down to level 7 and then saying, you know what, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be clear as day that the value that they're going to get from jiu-jitsu is going to be invaluable. Right? Just it's priceless. It's priceless.
It's obviously we're only 11 days into the new year, but it's nice to have sort of a clarity and a simplicity of understanding of purpose, and then sort of goals to set. I've never had like this sort of simple, streamlined view of everything like I have right now, and to me, it gives a good feeling of sort of just knowing exactly what needs to be done. And that's to me, I'm glad I did it. I'm not always a big fan of those kind of things, but there was something about persisting and figuring out why something's important that is really good to do. And I think really any endeavor that somebody does, it's not a bad idea to go through and just sort of drill down and find out, why do you really want to do something? Because that could either be, you realize, I don't really have good reasons to do something, or I have fundamental to my life reasons to do something. And then it's not even, it's not even a choice. Like if it's something about getting healthy, it's like, people are like, well, I want to get healthy to lose weight, to look good or whatever. So that's not really enough of a reason. You know what I mean? But if it's like, if you can picture your kids standing over your grave because you died of a heart attack because you're too
you
out
just
of shape.
said something right there. So during my conversation, I hope Robbie would be great with me, but putting this out. But one of his right hand man, Kevin Troyer, said something. Robbie was saying this is something that Kevin says, and that Robbie thinks it's so powerful. And when he said it to me, I was like, wow, and I don't want to butcher it, but it's something to the effect of the reason you start jiu-jitsu is not the reason you stay.
Yeah.
And that's because I think when they go along this journey, they begin to understand their why a lot more. Right. Yeah. And I think by doing this exercise, it helps you get to your why a lot sooner. But I think that why is constantly going to change.
It is.
But man, that just shows you the power of jiu-jitsu, right? Like the reason you sign up, I sign up because I want to lose weight. I sign up because I want to learn self-defense. But those aren't the reasons you're going to stay.
Yeah.
Because jiu-jitsu is more than that.
It
right.
is.
And you can't see that in the beginning.
No.
But you stay long enough and you get to that 7th level.
That's right.
I love it, my man.
Yeah.
My brother Carter, thank you so much for sharing that information today. Again, if anybody listening to the podcast wants the exercise, hit me up at thejujitsuoflife@gmail.com, and I will send you something close to it, a version of it. Yeah. 96 in the books. Go to thejujitsuoflife.com to check out this episode, our older episodes. Also, be sure to go to, just go to our website. Go to thejujitsuoflife.com. Leave us reviews there. If you're an Apple person, then get on iTunes and leave us a review there as well. Be sure to check out Robles.com, makers of the world's finest custom jiu-jitsu apparel. And as always, we wish you guys nothing but the best, both on and off the mat. We hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for listening and take care.
Thank you, guys.